Hello and welcome to my class. In this video, I am going to discuss the salient features and examples of order Orthoptera. The word Orthoptera means the straight-winged insects, and order Orthoptera includes the grasshoppers, the crickets, and the katydids. Let me first show you how you can capture some grasshoppers very easily. If you have an insect net and if you flip it on grass, you would surely capture one or two grasshoppers in it. Like here, I captured a nymph of a grasshopper, which you can see here.
Bring it closer. Show this.
Let me now show you how this small nymph looks outside the insect net. Please pay attention to these characters. This is a nymph, so it does not have the fully formed wings, but you can see the wing buds here. The targum of the prothorax is very broad and shield-like. The head is hypognathous type and it bears a pair of prominent eyes and two short antennae. There are three pairs of legs, as you can see. The first two pairs are short and they are walking type. But the third pair or the hind legs are very long and muscular. This type of legs are also known as the jumping legs or the saltatory legs. Because of their muscular nature, they help in jumping. In this very blurred image, you can see how the hind legs are helping the insect to catapult from the substrate. Here is a bigger nymph of a grasshopper and you can see the bigger wing buds here. Let's now go into the classification of order Orthoptera. Order Orthoptera is divided into two suborders. First is suborder Encifera, which includes the longhorn grasshoppers, crickets, and katydids, and suborder Califera, which includes the shorthorn grasshoppers and locusts. The suborder Encifera shows filiform antennae or very long thread-like antennae. All the members of this suborder are nocturnal, that is, they are active at night, and they sing by rubbing two front wings together. The front wings here are known as tegmina. They are protective in function, but other than rendering protection to the hind wings, they have another very important function. They help in stridulation or sound production in male crickets or male orthopterans. These two wings are rubbed against each other and by doing so, they produce a sound and male orthopterans use this sound to attract the females. The females have a very long and prominent ovipositor. The suborder Encifera is further divided into two superfamilies, superfamily Tettigoniids and superfamily Gryllids. Superfamily Tettigoniids is further divided into 5 families. Family Tettigoniids, which includes the longhorn grasshoppers and katydids, family Schizodactylidae or the burrowing forms, family Grylacridae, the wingless forms, family Stenopelmatidae, and family Phasmodidae. There are some orthopteran insects which look like the stick insects. And stick insects, the real stick insects, belong to order Phasmida. So the orthopterans who look like the stick insects, they are put under family Phasmodidae. Superfamily Gryllids includes two families, family Gryllotalpidae, which includes the mole crickets, and family Gryllidae or the crickets. Suborder Califera includes the shorthorn grasshoppers and locusts. Here, if you look at the antennae, these antennae are very long. So, they are also known as the longhorn grasshoppers. And here, the antennae are short, so they are known as shorthorn grasshoppers. They have small antennae and no prominent ovipositor. Suborder Califera includes two superfamilies, superfamily Acridids, which includes 5 families, family Acridids, family Eumacidae, family Pneumoridae, family Tetragidae, family Proscopidae. And there is superfamily Tridactyloidea, which includes family Tridactylidae and family Cylindrochaetidae. Now, in this whole suborder, this family Acrididae is the most important one from human perspective, because this family includes the shorthorn grasshoppers and locusts. They can both be pests to our crops. Locusts in particular are very destructive to our vegetation as well as for our crops. Now let's go into the salient features of order Orthoptera. Order Orthoptera includes the medium-sized to large insects, which are mostly terrestrial. They are mostly phytophagous, that is, they feed on plants, but there are some species which are predaceous and some are omnivorous. Both nymphs and adults feed on plant tissue or on animal tissue. Some species are exceptionally destructive to crops and vegetation, particularly the locusts. Let's look into the characters of the head. The head is mostly hypognathous, but in a few species, the prognathous head can also be found. The mouth parts are ectognathous, that is, mandibles and maxillae will not be inside the head capsule. And they have, if you look at the mandibles are different in the phytophagous forms and the carnivorous forms. In the phytophagous forms, they are strong and grinding, they have strong and grinding edges. But in omnivorous and carnivorous forms, they have elongated and pointed edges. Let's look at the maxillae. The maxilla has a fork-shaped lacinia, or the laciniae are fork-shaped, and they have 5 segmented maxillary pulps. These 5 segments in maxillary pulps, this is a very characteristic feature of order Orthoptera. Now let's look at the antennae. As I said before, antennae can be of 2 types. They can be either very long and filiform, or they can be short. In Tettigoniids, which include the Longhorn Grasshoppers and the katydids, they have very long antennae. And in Shorthorn Grasshoppers, they have short antennae. A pair of usually large compound eyes are present, and they can also have ocelli. 3 ocelli are present in most species, but they can be absent in wingless species and they can be reduced to 2 in some longhorn grasshoppers. So shorthorn grasshoppers, they always have 3. The wingless species, they may not have any ocelli, and in some longhorn grasshoppers, there are 2 ocelli. Now let's look at the thorax. Thorax would have 3 segments: prothorax, mesothorax and metathorax. Now prothorax is rather broad and its notum or the dorsal tergum is large and shield-like. It covers the major part of the thorax, and the meso and metathorax as a result are comparatively much shorter. The forewings are mainly protective and they are known as stegmina, but as I have told you before, they can also be used for producing sound. In most species, the hind pair of legs are typically adapted for jumping. You can see the word hop in order Orthoptera, right? And these hind legs are the ones which help in hopping. In mole crickets, the hind legs are normal, but the forelegs are fossorial. So in most species, the hind legs are saltatorial or jumping type, and in mole crickets, which are burrowing form and they do not jump, they have the forelegs modified into fossorial legs, which help in digging. Now let's talk about stridulation. Other than helping in jumping and helping in digging, as in mole crickets, there is another function of the legs. Some legs in Orthopterans also help in stridulation. But stridulation or sound production is mostly done by the forewings. Okay. So in males of most orthopterans, stridulation is a very unique, elaborate and diverse feature because it is used to attract the females, following which the male can mate with the female. Right? Now, you should know that stridulation is found in some other insects as well, like cicadas, which belong to order Hemiptera. They also produce sound. But in order Orthoptera, it is the most diverse type and most elaborate type. The females of one species can find the males of the same species by listening to the sound. The sound production happens by rubbing one body part to the other. Now, most of the times, these two body parts are the two forewings. One forewing or both forewings can have the dents, and then the other forewing will work as a scraper. The wing with the dents will be known as the file, and the other wing is known as the scraper. The dented wing is rubbed or rasped against the other membranous wing, and that produces the sound. The wings are held in such a way that they magnify this sound. So they work as an amplifier. As I said, that it does not have to be the forewings. They can be some other body parts too. So let's look at this character. Which insect makes sound by which body part? The file of katydids and crickets is formed from basal vein of one or both tegmina. Tegmina means the forewings, and rasp against a scraper on the other wing. So katydids and crickets make the sound using only their forewings. But grasshoppers and locusts rasp a file on the hind femur against a scraper on the tegmen. So here the legs can be used for producing the sound. They rasp the hind femur to the tegmen and produce the sound. So as I promised before that the legs would have two more functions. So one is formation of sound. The second, so let me first show you some sound production and then I will go to the other function of the legs. Here you can see that two forewings are rubbed against each other to produce the sound. See, the hind wings have no function in sound production. Only the forewings are producing the sound and also amplifying the sound. See, you can also hear the chorus here. There are many orthopterans who are simultaneously making the sound. Now let's look at the other function of the leg. The tibia of the foreleg of both males and females have a tympanal organ that vibrates by sound waves, and this helps the insect in perceiving the sound. So the legs have four types of functions. In most orthopterans, it helps in hopping or jumping. In mole crickets, the forelegs are used for digging. In some orthopterans, the femur of the hind legs have dents and they can be used for stridulation. And in most insects, most orthopteran insects, the tibia of the foreleg has a tympanal organ which can help in perceiving the sound made by the males. Now let's go into some more characters. The alimentary canal generally bears a spacious crop which can be used to hold the food. The spacious crop leads into a strongly sclerotized gizzard in Tettigoniids and which are weakly developed in Acridids. The cuticular armature in Acridids is strongly developed and they are specialized in accordance with the type of plants used. So based on what kind of plants the Acridids feed on, they have that plant specific cuticular armature in their foregut. The salivary glands are poorly developed in Acridids, but they are well developed in Tettigoniids. There are 6 gastric cica in Acridids and only 2 in Tettigoniids and Gryllids. There are 6 characteristic rectal papillae which are present in all Orthopteran insects. The testes are compact bodies with numerous follicles enclosed in a sheath, while the ovaries are made up of numerous panoistic ovarioles and may be arranged lateral to the oviducts or in a cluster. Let me tell you what is panoistic ovariole. When the ovariole has oocytes with just a single layer of follicular cells, it is known as panoistic ovariole. But if the ovariole has oocytes which are accompanied by a single layer of follicular cells as well as a series of nurse cells, then they are known as meroistic ovarioles. Now, the family Acrididae includes the insects which are most important from human perspective because they include shorthorn grasshoppers which can be pests of certain crops, and they also include the locusts which are highly destructive to our vegetation as well as to our crops. They have short antennae because they are shorthorn grasshoppers obviously, and they have 3 segmented tarsi. Tarsi is the part of the leg. They have auditory organs on either side of the first abdominal segment and short ovipositor. Stridulation takes place by rubbing inner surface of the hind femur against the lower edge of the forewing or by rubbing the anterior margin of the hind wing with posterior margin of the forewing. Unlike the Tettigoniids, where the stridulation happens only by rubbing the forewings, the 2 forewings, here the stridulation happens by rubbing the hind femur against the lower edge of the forewing or by rubbing the anterior margin of the hind wing with the posterior margin of the forewing. So here either the hind legs are involved or the hind wings are involved. Okay, so this hind leg or hind wings involvement is absent in Tettigoniids. It is only found in Acrididae. The short ovipositor is used for excavating a hole in the ground or in plant tissues or in rotting woods. The eggs are laid in batches of 30 to 100 or there can be more. But once the eggs are laid, a fluid is secreted around the eggs and it covers the eggs and gives it a hard covering, or it is also known as the pod. This pod or the hard covering protects the eggs against water. Since they are laid under soil, they need protection from water. So this pod gives that protection to the eggs. 2 examples of family Acrididae are Hieroglyphus banyan, which is a pest of rice, and Crotogonus trachypterus, which is a pest of cotton. But there are some more important insects in family Acrididae as well. So let's talk about that. Very recently, you must have heard about the locust attack in India. What are these locusts? These locusts are actually the shorthorn grasshoppers, but certain species of shorthorn grasshoppers which show a behavioral peculiarity. These insects are solitary in general, but under certain environmental conditions, they become gregarious and they form swarms. That is, they form groups of millions. And once that group is formed, then they migrate hundreds of miles from one place to another, from one country to another. And when they do so, they can feed on all the vegetation on their way. So if there is any crop in the field at that time, the locusts can finish all of that in very little amount of time. Three locusts are known from India. One is the Bombay locust or Patanga succincta, the migratory locust or Locusta migratoria, and desert locust or Cystosarca gregaria. So all these locusts, when they are solitary in nature, they are known as shorthorn grasshoppers. But when they form the groups, they become the locusts. Most of the information given in this video are taken from this book, and I would like to acknowledge Mr. Jesse Hotling for giving me the katydids picture, and to Ms. Gurjeet Kaur who had made the pencil drawings. Hope you like this video. Please come back for my next video on Order Hemiptera.